My name is Professor Maha Ghanem. I am Professor of Forensic Medicine and Clinical Toxicology. I'm a Chairman of Ethics Committee, Faculty of Medicine, Alexandria University. We will talk today about the ethical principles of human medical research. Starting with this short story about a grandma who is suffering from colic, and you are a student in medical school. So you go to the pharmacy and asking for antispasmodic drug. It is the drug that decreases the colic feeling. And she took it, she's become well, and every day still she's suffering from colic, and this drug wouldn't be good anymore. So you pay a visit to a doctor who told your grandmother that she is suffering from what we called cancer of pancreas, and she asked about the curement and the treatment available for this disease. Unfortunately, the doctor tell her there is no treatment for such a disease. So please join a research work or a clinical trial to improve your life at the last days. Okay, this means we still don't have any drugs for certain disease. We don't have medication. In spite of all this progress, still we don't have curement and solution for difficult situation in medicine. This is an Arabic title in one of our national newspaper, talking about Obama's, the last president of United States of America. He was apologizing for the people of Guatemala. It's one of the African country where his scientists inoculating those person with gonorrhea and syphilis without knowing that they have been injected with these diseases. What are this? Is it a scientific research? No. This is science for science. As a doctors, we don't do science for science. We do science for the service of humanity, and science and medicine for the community. So, do we need a research? Yes, we need it for the grandmother who didn't have a treatment for her disease. But how would this research work will be carried out? This is where we need the ethics. Okay, so human research ethics is a basic principle to be ensured that the right of the participant and the individual are respected over the expected benefit of that research. So whenever you are going to do a research, it will serve the humanity, respect the right of your patient. What is the right of that patient? What do you mean by the right of that patient? This right of that patient has been regulated through several codes and regulations and guidelines all over the world. One of the most simple form of these regulations and guidelines or of what we called a Nuremberg Code. This code is one of the ethical code, has been done at 1947 after the Second World War, where a violation to the rights of human being has been carried out at that time, and they put regulations of how you would carry a research on human being, and this will include, number one, and the most important, what we called a voluntary consent of the human being over that research. What does that mean? This means that your patient should voluntarily sign a paper where you write that it is a research, it is under experiment, and this research aims to cure the nominated disease, whatever you are working on, and it will take a long time or short time, how many visits, what you are going to do to him, what is the investigations that should be carried out. You will write also the risk and the complication you expected. Your patient and your participant should sign this form after proper reading and understanding to whatever you are writing. This is very honest, and there will be a witness over his signature, and he will sign beside him. Okay, and if he refuses, you won't punish your patient, you will let him go. Okay, so this is what we call a voluntary. It is done by his own will. Okay, the second point in this code or regulation, they are talking about the experiment that should be beneficial for the society. Whatever you are doing, you are not doing science for science. You are doing science for society, science for community, science for human being all over the world. Okay, this should be considered. This experiment should be based on experimentation on animals. If you have an idea of research, don't go to take a patient and start your experiment over that patient. First, you should try it over animal, 10, 20 different species, and you are following up them, and you have a good results. At that time, you can do it on human being on special way, not just giving a patient some medication and see whatever you are going. No, it has certain steps that should be followed. Otherwise, you will be accused by abusing your patient. Another point in this code of ethics that you should avoid unnecessary physical or mental suffering of your participant. Whenever you have a participant in your research, you should comfort him. You should make him able to coming to you comfortably. He is not suffering from problems in transportation or in staying on the hospital, or he may suffer from some of the side effects. You should relieve these side effects. You should comfort your patient. The next point, they are talking about some person may found a marvelous treatment for medications for cancer pancreas. Okay, but this treatment, whenever the participant will take it, it can cause him blindness or renal shutdown. Whenever something like this occurs, you shouldn't start this research from the beginning. Whenever you are expecting a disability to your participant, don't do that research. Another point that you should take care is about the risk and the benefit. You are expecting benefit from that research, but your risk should be minimal. That's what we call the risk-benefit ratio. We should consider this. Before the starting of any research, you should consider all the medication is present, all the investigation is available, all the preparation for such a patient and the counter or antidotes for complication is present. Okay, so prepare yourself before the beginning of any research. Also, we considered that who is carrying that research. The person who is carrying that research should be scientifically qualified, trained. I wouldn't come to a vet or a pharmacist and tell him, come, you will carry a research on human being. Or you don't go to one of the artists and tell him, come please to make my research. No, we don't do this. We are searching for scientifically qualified personnel. Persons are trained on research. Persons know how he should behave whenever there is a complication, who is going to assist him, how the process will going on. At the beginning, or the first part of this code, we are talking about the voluntary consent of this participant, and we said that this patient and this participant will sign a paper talking about all the details of the research. Okay, if this participant come to you and say, I fed up, I want to leave this research, I wouldn't complete it, what do you do? Is he able to do this? He is signing with me. Yes, he is signing, but it is not a contract, it is a voluntary consent. Okay, so he can leave you at any time during research, and you will replace this person by another one. Okay, and finally, this experiment should be terminated whenever you are finding a bad complication or a bad risk. You are doing all the steps properly, but with one patient you find bad complication, bad side effects. You should stop your research and search properly what is the cause that bad risk or bad complication. Okay, before you are beginning your research, you are making what we called a plan of research, a design. Who will read this design and said, yes, you can do this research, or no, you cannot do it? And after that, he will following you, what are you doing to that patient? The body that carrying this function is called an ethics committee. Sometimes they are called it IRB, or Institution Review Board. It is a committee that initiated in institutions, and usually the institutions are carrying of research, or they are carrying a lot of research. And this committee is composed of physicians, pharmacologists, attorney, lawyers, and lay personnel of prominence. What do you mean by this? This means he is someone well educated, but he is not from the medical field. Why? Because sometimes it can be easily as a physician to tell you, you have a cataract, I will remove your lens present inside your eyes and throw it away and put it another one. But for lay personnel, this is difficult to imagine, and he may have concerns, he may need assurance, he may dislike how you talk. Okay, so we have one to monitor our research and how it should be applied to participants. Okay, what is the responsibility of this ethics committee? The ethics committee should be noted that there is an adequate need for that research, there is benefit from that research, and this benefit is outweighed the risk. There is a proper scientific qualified personnel carrying out this research. There is a reliable, and this person should be reliable, and there is a form of the informed consent, and after filling this informed consent, he will monitor the patient. Is going to that patient and ask him if he knowing he's in the research, if he signed the informed consent, and how they are treating you, how are they investigating you, and he will follow, are they following whatever they write in their proposal or not. This is the role of ethics committee. So this ethics committee is protecting all the vulnerable population, either poor personnel, uneducated, children, pregnant women, elderly, okay, refugees. So they are controlling all these functions. Okay, so we are talking about, you are making a design, you're making a preparation, you have an approval of ethics committee, and sometimes if you have a large research work that it is carried all over the nation, you will have another approval from the Ministry of Health. It is a lot of work paper and a lot of money. Okay, until this point you understand with me. If I come and steal your research work, what do you do? Are you pleased or not? Of course you are not pleased. Let me make it more easy to you. You are a student, you are working so hard beside your studying, and you're getting money, and you buy a car, and you was happy with that car, and someone steal this car. What do you feel? It is bad feeling. Someone taking your effort in work and your money. Okay, this is the same with the research work. If someone stealing your research work, removing your name, put his name instead, and say, I'm the one who is doing that research. Or if you write a book and someone taking this book and remove your name and say, I am the one who is doing this workbook. This is a bad feeling. It is a stealing. Okay, he doesn't steal money, but he steals your intellectual creativity. That's why it is important to defend our intellectual creativity. Okay, so this intellectual creativity will become a property, and we call it an intellectual property because you own it. Okay, and this intellectual property is a right from your intellectual creativity. We can divide it into literary and artistic property and industrial property. Literary and artistic including our work as you are writing a book, you are making a speech or lecture, something like this. While the industrial property, those who are putting a certain icon over their production, like Adidas, like Timberland. Okay, if you are trying to make new clothes and you are stealing their icon, they can sue you. Why? Because you may use something less good than whatever they offer us. Okay, and number two, you are stealing his work. You are taking money from him. So whenever you are creating a work, we considered you an author. So the author is the one who is creating the work. And there is what we call a copyright. It is a principle protected by law, where they protect this author creativity. Whatever you are producing, it will protect your production. So as an author, you have rights, and these rights will be divided into moral rights and financial rights. Moral right means no one can use your production or your creativity without mentioning your name. And financial right, it is money. Whenever you are producing something, and a book for example, and sell it, you should take money. Okay, if you are not able to sell your book, you are just writing a book and you are going to a publisher and ask him to distribute this and publish this. This person will, or this organization will have a right also similar to your right, and we call it a related right. In Egypt, law number 82 for year 2002 will protect the right of the author on workbook, computer program, lecture and speech, especially if they are being on telecommunication, database and work art. All the countries have their own laws, may be called a fair use law or laws of intellectual property, but each country will have this. Now we understand that whenever you are creating or writing something, you have the right over these things, and no one can use it without your permission. Okay, if I'm asking you now to write an assignment, to write a scientific article review about how your heart works, the heart beating, the tachycardia, whatever they are asking you for, what are you going to do? You are going to read books, internet, and scientific journals. Why? To facilitate your process, to facilitate you to make your own assignment, and you are taking your mark. Okay, so how can we take it properly? How can we use this information resources properly? We can take it by either quotation, this means copy and paste or word by word. We can take it by paraphrasing, and we can use summarization. Let us start with quotation, which is the easiest method for you to take a copy and paste word by word. If you are take a paragraph word by word, like a theory, like a classification, you should put whatever you are taking between quotation mark, this small brackets that you are being seeing, and after putting this between quotation mark, you will write the reference, the source from where you take this information. Okay, if I don't like to put my assignment between all these small quotation marks and brackets, what I can do? We can do what we call the paraphrasing, that you can read and rephrase or change the words of the the words that have been used in the article, and put it in your own language, and after this you will also use the reference. So in any way you should write what is your source. Finally, the third proper method is summarizing, and in summarizing you are reading different sources, and whenever you are finishing you have an idea how to write this process, and whenever you are writing this process in your own word, this is good. And finally you should also mention from where you read all these resources. If you don't do this, you will be accused by what we called an academic misconduct, and we call it academic because it is usually between scientists and in scientific institutions. The most famous misconduct, we call it plagiarism. Plagiarism means it is adoption or reproduction of idea, statements, copies of another person without acknowledgement and proper citation. This means you are taking a copy and paste without mention that it is belonging to someone else. You don't put this quotation mark, you don't mention that reference. So to avoid this academic misconduct, you should and you must write whatever you read in your own language, know how to put the citation or the reference properly, and finally you should mention that you are taking this from another one and don't do anything else. So until this point I inform you about a lot of substance, about the intellectual property, about the ethics of research and Nuremberg Code. From where do I bring this informations? It is from book. So do I violating this intellectual property of those authors or not? By the law number 82, if I use this information resources and put it in a lectures or doing for something educational with no profit, there is no penalties over me. This means I can use the information for short, either the whole subject or part of it, in educational process and in educational institution. Okay, sometimes if you are going to the internet and find some book or some article, they write beneath you can take a single copy, and this is right because the law allowing taking a single copy. Okay, if I don't want from you to take my copy or to take any copy and paste or downloading my article or my workbook, I will put what we called an encryption or technical difficulty. This means whenever you are trying to download it, it won't be downloadable. Okay. If you are now making or stealing someone else's workbook and he accused you in the police station, and you can go to the court, and in the court you will have penalties. These penalties of violation of this intellectual property will include imprisonment. You are going to prison for not less than 1 month, and you are paying fine ranging from 5 to 10,000. Okay, and if you are repeating this will be increased in penalties. Okay, this is in Egypt. Outside they have different laws, and it is mostly harsher than this. So whenever you are selling or renting a workbook without the prior permission of the author, you can be accused. If you are taking this workbook and put it on the internet or any form of telecommunication without a prior permission of the author, you will be accused. If you are just breaking this technical encryption or technical difficulty over the internet, the author, can accuse you with violation of the intellectual property. So in summary, we are knowing 2 points, main points. We are knowing about the ethics of human research, the Nuremberg Code. We are talking about the ethics committee and its responsibility. We are talking about the intellectual property and its type, and the laws that governing this intellectual property and the copyrights. And if you are not properly writing or making your assignment by a proper method of quotation, paraphrasing and summarizing, you can be accused with academic misconduct. Thank you.